Hey guys, welcome back. For those of you who are new, my name is Dre and I make videos about luxury skincare, luxury makeup, and luxury handbags. So if you guys are into that, subscribe for more of this kind of content. So today is going to be another handbag video. As the years have gone by, I know you guys have seen my handbag collection grow with me, and I've always been into handbags, but it was just as of the last couple of years that obtaining them became more realistic for me, because before I was in college and you know, money was tight. As a college student, like money was tight. Like I was working at a cafe making what, like 10 bucks an hour. So money was kind of tight for a bitch. And when I graduated, I still had student loans, but you know, as I started working more and stuff like that, you know, finally obtaining handbags beyond just like my 2 Louis Vuitton bags that I had became definitely more realistic. And I've been into handbags for, it feels like at least more than a decade. I'm 27 now, so I would say, yeah, it's definitely been more than a decade. As the years have gone by and I have kind of like dove in more into the world of luxury handbags and just becoming a little more invested in the handbag community on YouTube, I've learned a lot, and I just wanted to share my tips and tricks when it comes to obtaining handbags, especially when it comes to shopping on a pre-loved market. So I do have some handbags that I purchased pre-loved. Most of my handbags back there were purchased brand new, mainly because you know, at the time I was working at Nordstrom, so I was able to get some of the handbags that were sold there on discount, which was, you know, very helpful because the cost of these handbags can be a little hefty. But I do have some handbags that I did purchase that were pre-loved, just because, you know, it's equivalent to getting a discount. So because I browse the pre-loved market pretty often, I wanted to share 3 tips with you guys, 3 main things to take into consideration when you are purchasing on the pre-loved market. I'm like, I do have notes here as I usually do. So the 3 things that you should definitely take into consideration when purchasing a handbag on the pre-loved market is the availability of the bag that you're looking for, or the bag that you're looking at, your budget, because it's your money and you should be very cognizant of it, and then the condition in which the handbag is in. So whether you're looking for a certain handbag or there's a handbag that caught your eye that you're looking at, take into consideration its condition. So the first thing that you guys should definitely take into consideration when purchasing a new handbag is its availability. So whether the bag is still in production or not. So if the bag is no longer in production, that means that the quantity or the amount that's going to be available on the pre-sale market is going to be very low. Since it's no longer in production, it would be that much harder to obtain. So again, take that into consideration. If there's like a bag that's no longer in production, whether it's a vintage bag or just like a bag of a certain color that's only released once a year or once every couple years, or just like a certain silhouette of a bag that's no longer in production. In my case, recently I purchased the Dior Diorama, and this one is no longer in production. This is from Dior, and this silhouette is no longer in production, which is a freaking shame because I think it's a beautiful silhouette and it should be in production. But for cases like this where the handbag is no longer in production, take into consideration that it might take longer for you to hunt down. So the fact that it's limited in availability and quantity would definitely affect the pricing of the handbag. Or the other case is if the bag is still in production but very difficult to obtain. So items like the Hermes Birkin, Kelly, yes, they are still in production, but they are in production in limited quantities. So, you know, they are still in circulation, but because so few of them are made every year, it becomes very difficult to obtain, especially if you're looking for like a certain hardware or a certain leather or a certain color, or a certain size. Sometimes because it's so limited and so difficult to obtain, it definitely does affect the price. Another handbag that I did buy pre-loved was the Chanel Diana. So again, this bag is no longer in production. I don't remember the year of this bag. I remember the year that I purchased it. I purchased this in 2019. And since I've purchased it, the prices have gone up dramatically. So this style again is no longer in production. So as a result, it is kind of hard to obtain. Even when I was searching for this specific silhouette, I had trouble finding one in the condition that I wanted it to be in a reasonable price. So I will get into pricing and all that later. So the two handbags that I do have that are pre-loved are the Diana and the Dior Diorama, and both of these are out of production, and it definitely did affect the price, but I will get into that right now actually. So another thing to take into consideration is your budget. If you have a budget that you're not willing to exceed, you have to stick to that budget. So when I knew that I was gonna look for my Diana, I did a lot of searching and I did a lot of research, and I knew that the going market price for this bag was around $2,000 to $3,000. I didn't see any bags that were over $3,000. And I wanted it in medium because it does come in two sizes. It comes in a small and a medium. I don't believe this one comes in a large. And I knew I wanted it in gold hardware. So for all things considered, I did a lot of shopping around. I did a lot of window shopping. I looked on Rebag. This one I got specifically on Rebag. I looked at Fashion File. I looked at Yugi's Closet. I looked at a lot of different consignments websites to kind of just get a gauge on what the market price of this was on the resale market, and it was the ballpark around $2,000 to $3,000. Anything that was below $2,000 was either a small Diana or it was just in very poor condition. So knowing that I was looking for this bag in particular, I had a budget in mind, and that I knew I wasn't going to go anything above $3,000 because I think brand new this bag at the time was going for about $3,000. I'm like, and for the first half of like the budget part, I'm gonna be talking about handbags that are no longer in production, just because I feel like that makes a little more sense. So when this bag was still in production, I know it sold for about $33, $34, which I feel like was reasonable for the time. For resale, I didn't want to go anything over $3,000. And if it was gonna be over $3,000, it needed to be in perfect brand new condition, because that would have brought it pretty much comparable to boutique prices, which the point of buying pre-loved is to get a discount, you know? So if you find a handbag and it's close to boutique prices and it's used, I don't feel like it's worth it. So that's why I knew that I wasn't gonna exceed the price range of $3,000 when it came to spending on this bag. I purchased this bag for about $2,600, which I feel like is such a steal because honestly, I don't know what happened, but ever since then, I've looked at Diana bags recently because I just kind of want to add another one to my collection, maybe in a different color and a different leather. And the bags have gone up to $4,000, $5,000. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what the trend is. Maybe I missed out on something, but this handbag has gone up in price since I bought it, and I'm so glad that I bought it when it did. So back to what I was saying, I knew I didn't want to spend anything above $3,000, and if it was gonna be below $2,000, I knew that it wasn't gonna be in great condition. So this one was purchased for about $2,600, and I think it's still in good condition. It is still a vintage handbag, but overall, like, it's still in pretty good condition. When it comes to the condition or like the quality of the bag, I will go into that later. Okay, so when it comes to the Diorama bag, which again I bought recently, I was actually on the hunt for this bag for a really long time. When I first saw it hit runway a couple years ago, I think it was back in 2015, like I knew that I wanted it. It wasn't a priority for me, and by the time I got around to wanting it again, it was no longer in production. And the thing about this bag is that I don't know, like I had such a hard time hunting one down in a reasonable color. Every one of them that I came across was either in like a weird metallic color, or it was a wallet on chain, or it was just like an obnoxious like red color. Everything was just so unappealing to me. I just kind of gave up on the whole notion of obtaining a diorama. And so I was actually just browsing the website and I came across this one. And I was a little hesitant about it for a couple reasons that I will go into later, but I did end up purchasing it and I am so happy with it. So at retail price, brand new, this retailed for $3,400. Give or take taxes, it was around the $3,300, $3,400. I bought this one for $1,700 with tax. It came out to $1,800, which, judging by the condition of the bag and everything, I feel like I got it for such a good price. So again, considering these two bags are no longer in production, that means that its availability is very limited. And with a bag like this, I knew I didn't want to spend anywhere close to $3,000. I wouldn't spend any more than like $2,000 when it comes to this handbag. Even though it's no longer in production, I feel like it's still fair for it to be priced at lower than what the original market price is, especially since this one is used, and I will insert pictures later about when I talk about the condition of the bag. I mean, again, when it comes to buying pre-loved, it only makes sense for me to get a discount on a bag. So in order to get like a good gauge of market price, the only way is for you to constantly shop around. So I window shop almost every day, or at the very least every other day. I browse websites a lot just to get a good gauge on what the market price and what the going price is for the pre-loved market. I kind of have like a checklist in my head of bags that I'm interested in. So as soon as I see a bag that, you know, I see that's on my list, I look at it and I compare prices and stuff like that just to see what the range is. And overall, between websites, prices tend to be pretty consistent. They only vary by a couple $100s because, you know, all the consignment market is pretty much it is its own community. So again, it's its own kind of business, and as a result, they are going to kind of have to compete with each other. So the prices do tend to be pretty comparable. But of course, like sometimes you are going to get a better deal here on one website versus like another website. I know on Rebag, when I was looking at the Diorama, the prices were definitely a lot higher versus when I bought this one on Fashion File, the prices were definitely more within my range. So that was considering bags that are out of production. So if you're looking to purchase a bag that is still in circulation, that is still in production, but you are looking for a pre-loved, I would suggest that you make sure that you are getting a discount on it. And the proposed discount I always try to aim for is around 20, 25, 30% off. If I can get anywhere around that ballpark, I'm very happy with it. And I think it's because when I was working at Nordstrom, I was able to get 20 to 30% off a bag depending on the time of year and depending on, you know, if there was an event that was going on. That's the general discount I was able to get. So when it comes to pre-loved, I try to go about 20 to 30% off of original market price. Or like if it's a Chanel bag or something like that, I like to go at least $1,000 in savings when it comes to buying certain handbags. Because if it just varies by like a couple hundred, you might as well just go the brand new route. So for handbags that are still in production, I try to go, like for example, the Chanel Classic Flap, those handbags are still in production. Iconic Louis Vuitton bags like the Neverfull or the Alma, stuff like that, bags that are still iconic, that are still in production, that you don't want to buy market price. For Chanel price, there has been a price increase every single year thus far, which is kind of horrifying. It's now out of my budget, which I never thought, you know, was gonna be so soon. But Chanel brand new is getting, you know, ferociously close to being out of budget for me. So for handbags that are hitting around like the $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 range, if you're gonna buy it pre-loved, I would definitely suggest looking for something that is at least $1,000 to at least $1,500 discounted off of market price. For Louis Vuitton, because the price range tends to be a little lower, looking for something that's going to be $1,000 discounted might compromise the quality of the handbag. So for that one, the 20 to 30% off might hit about a couple $100, $500 about, depending on the range. Okay, so the last point that I'm gonna hit is the condition of the handbag. So again, all of these three things work in tandem. So the availability of a handbag, the budget that you're working with, the market price of the bag, and the condition of the handbags, all three of these things work in tandem. But I feel like condition of the handbag definitely weighs in a lot more when it comes to the budgeting and the market price and the price that it's going at. So for the price, you definitely have to take into consideration the condition of the handbag. So again, you're shopping the pre-loved market. That means that this bag has been used prior. That means, you know, it's been pre-loved, but that means that it has been owned previously by somebody else. So again, I'm gonna take the Chanel Classic Flap as an example, just because the resale market for Chanel Classic Flaps is quite large, because there is a market for it, and there's always going to be a market for it, especially the classic flaps that are a little more difficult to obtain. These bags hold their value like crazy, and like I said previously, each year Chanel has increased its prices, and the pre-loved market has taken that into consideration and is playing catch up, and they're kind of like on par with it. So right now, like I said, a classic flap in a medium size is going for $5,800. So if you find on the pre-loved market that there's a handbag that you love that's in great condition, but it's around $5,600 or even the same price as $5,800, you might as well go to the boutique and buy your handbag brand new, because again, the price discrepancy is, it's only a couple $100s, and if it's only a couple $100s, I think you might as well just save yourself the hassle and go in and get the full Chanel shopping experience. But with that being said, if the market price is $5,800 and you go by my rule of thumb and you find a handbag for $4,800, which again, it's like $1,000 off, but it is in horrible condition, it's in poor condition, like the bag is saggy, there is visible wear on the corners, the hardware is super scratched, the interior is super damaged, the bag is slouchy, everything is compromised, I wouldn't go for it either. Because again, even though you're getting a substantial discount, the bag is in poor condition. So you kind of have to find a way to strike the balance where you're getting a reasonable price, or a price that you find reasonable for yourself, while still getting a handbag whose condition has not been totally compromised by its wear. Like, in other words, the price has to be consistent with the condition. But the caveat is to not let minor damages dissuade you from purchasing the bag. So when I first bought my Diana bag, it did not look like this. My friends who have come over and have seen this bag, they all complimented it. They're like, oh my God, like you got it for such a good price. It's in such good condition. Like the quilting is like, they compliment the quilting, which like honestly, like everything is true. Like I think it, for the price that I got it, I think it is in great condition. The quilting is still like, for it to be a vintage bag, and I'm pretty sure this was produced like a very long time ago. This bag might actually be close to my age, or at least I know its age is definitely double digits. So for it to be a vintage bag, the scratches on this are not very visible. The quilting is still very puffy, like it hasn't completely flattened out. The shine on the leather is still very nice and healthy. Of course, there are going to be creases on the bag, but that's very natural, you know, that I would just say it contributes to part of its character. Again, hardware is in good condition. This was made when the hardware was still gold plated, as you guys can see by kind of like the maker's mark. As you guys can see, like it's very nicely shaped and puffy. But when I first got the bag, it did not look like this. I have this bag super stuffed. In here I have the dust bag that it came in and several towels. Like I just have, this is very stuffed. So I just have the chain tucked away in here just for practicality reasons. So when I open up the handbag, you can see that it is definitely creased, but again, that's definitely normal when it comes to handbags that have a flap. It's creased and it's totally normal. But when I first got the handbag, this part of it was collapsed inward. It was definitely collapsed inward, and this piece right here was collapsed as well. Like this whole handbag was just very collapsed. But I was okay with that. Like when I first got the handbag, I don't have pictures of you know, the before and after, but when I first got this handbag, it was very flat, very collapsed. But I knew that leather is malleable, and I know, and I feel like you guys should definitely keep that in mind. Leather is malleable. So I knew that all I had to do was just continuously stuff it, and eventually it would, you know, bounce back and have its shape again. And sure enough, even without stuffing, I can close it and its shape is very well sustained. And I've had this bag stuffed since 2019, so it's about 2-ish years at this point, a year and a half. And just from constantly stuffing it, it has kind of regained its natural shape. So when I bought this bag, again, I took into consideration, like I knew I didn't want to spend any more than $3,000 on this bag, and I saw the condition of it and it was in great condition. Like there was very minimal wear on the hardware. It wasn't super scratched, and the gold plating wasn't coming off, like it wasn't tarnished or anything. The leather, the quilting is still very puffy. It's not completely flushed yet. There weren't too many visible signs of wear. The scratches were not obvious. This one I did not have to go in and get it repaired at all. The corners were almost perfect. Like of course there's like a little bit of wear in the corners, But again, like this bag is no longer in production, so not like I have the option of going in to buy it in person anyway. So my options were only pre-loved. And on the pre-loved market, again, if you're buying a bag that's no longer in production and you're buying it pre-loved, you have to compromise a little bit. You have to give a little bit. So in order to get a bag that is this old, that is no longer in production in this good of condition, I knew I had to take into consideration that, again, this bag had a previous owner, but the previous owner did take great care of it. The scratches, again, I said are very minor. None of them are deep and none of them are obvious, to which I was turned off by it. Even the interior, like the scratches are not bad. Like, not bad at all. So I was actually very lucky to find a bag that is this old in this great condition and at this price. I don't think you can find a Diana for $27, a medium Diana for $2,700. I think it's impossible nowadays. And the thing is, when I first got it, I was just like, ugh, it's kind of expensive. But now thinking about it, I kind of made out like a bandit. I practically stole this thing. Now, the Diorama I did purchase recently, and I will insert photos here, and I will insert close-up shots and stuff like this. But when I first got this, again, like I got this for $1,700 and retail, it was retailing for $3,300, $3,400 when it was in circulation. So again, taking into consideration that this bag is no longer in circulation, I don't have the option of going in store and purchasing it in person anyway. So my options literally were only pre-loved. And on the pre-loved market, it's difficult to find a reasonable color. So when I saw this bag, again, I was just kind of browsing online. I wasn't expecting to find anything, but then I saw this. And when I saw the price, I was just like, what the heck? Like, no way. It was retailing for $1,600 with tax. It came out to $1,800. But there were a couple reasons why it was priced so low. So first of all, the front of the bag looks incredible. Like, it's a pale pink. I think this was in Rouge Poudre or Rose, Powder Rose. And this one is like more in the pale pink. At first I was a little apprehensive about buying this one just because this one is in a very similar color as my Givenchy Antigona. But again, I was able to justify it because of the silhouette, and again, it's a good color and it's no longer production, so I justified it, and the price again was too good to pass up. The enamel around the hardware is still in such great condition. The hardware itself, there are very, very minimal scratches, but there were a couple concerns. The edges around the hardware were a little stained. There were a couple stains, like just, I think, from usage in the back and in the front. The actual leather straps of the bag was stained, and I think my biggest qualm was that the right edge of this bag was a little frayed, like it was a little worn. So when I first got the Diorama, there were definitely stains on the corner, there were stains in the straps. The bag was slightly kind of like concaved in. It's definitely lost its shape a little bit, but it was fine. But what really kind of had me tossing and turning was this edge on, this outer edge that showed, a lot of sign of wear. That was the only thing that kind of turned me off, but then I remembered that like I can always take in this bag for repair. But this is what the bag looked like when it was on the website, and Fashion File definitely did a good job of photographing any like quote unquote flaws that it had. That's why I love shopping on sites like this, because they tend to be pretty honest about what they have. They tend to be pretty honest about it, and they tend to photograph it really well in really good lighting. And I think they represent the bag pretty accurately, because whatever you see online is exactly, when it came in, that's exactly how I got it. So because this bag was a little misshapen, so it did come with 2 dust bags, so I just folded them up and I went ahead and stuffed them to start the reshaping process of the handbag. The good news is that I do have someone that I go to when it comes to like leather repair. So that's the next point I want to bring up. That's why I said don't let the idea of having a few defects dissuade you from purchasing a bag, because sometimes a lot of these things, like when people sell bags, a lot of times they don't clean it prior. So a lot of stains can actually be removed, and little wear and tear, like, you know, areas like this where the leather is kind of coming apart, it can be fixed with a little bit of leather glue. You can either do it yourself, or if you're like me, you can go take it to, you know, leather surgeons, or you could take it to a leather repair near you. Simple fixes like this, they don't tend to cost much. So again, like, you can buy a handbag that's like a fixer-upper, as long as the cost of fixing plus the cost of the handbag is not going to exceed the market price of the handbag. So that's why I said don't let mediocre condition dissuade you from buying it, because when it comes to like pen marks and stains, those can be easily repaired. I use a simple leather conditioner from Nordstrom that I bought a long time ago. It's a huge bottle, and I just take a cotton pad and I like to go in and just condition my leather handbags with those, and at the same time it is a stain remover as well. So it does help remove any like dirt or oil and grime that tends to accumulate on the handbag over time. And just like my Diana, if it's slightly misshapen, it can be reshaped with either a bag shaper, or if you're low budget like me, just stuff it with a bunch of t-shirts or some old rags or handbags or towels like that. And when it comes to hardware, slight scratches are hardly ever noticeable. So hardware usually tends to show signs of aging quickly if it's not taken care of, but usually luxury hardware like this, they are very resilient. I know the description says that there is visible marks on the hardware, but like looking from far away, it doesn't look like it. Like I had to go in and visibly look for hardware scratches for me to see anything wrong with it, but like from far away, like it looks so good. So I know this video came out kind of long. I'm gonna try to cut it down as much as possible, but you guys kind of know me at this point, like I'm pretty talkative. And when I explain something, I really like to be really thorough so that you guys get like really good information. But some consignment websites that I frequent would be Rebag. Now Rebag is on the newer side. I believe they only came about a couple years ago, but I do enjoy Rebag because they do guarantee authenticity. And so I can kind of almost shop with peace of mind knowing that these pieces are authenticated. The other one that I tend to look at is Fashionphile. Fashionphile has more of an assortment in comparison to Rebag. Rebag is still relatively small. Their selection is great, but I know Fashionphile definitely has more of a selection. Yugi's Closet, I definitely check Yugi's Closet. I feel like a lot of times their prices are really good and their selection is excellent as well. The RealReal, I definitely look at the RealReal, although I feel like a lot of their stuff tends to be a little more on the expensive side. I mean, I browse on the RealReal, but I haven't really had an inclination to make like a purchase on the RealReal. Tradesy, like I have sold things on Tradesy. I do have things on sale on Tradesy. If you guys are looking to purchase, I'll like link my stuff down below. I am trying to get rid of like some stuff like that I'd have, so I'll link it down below. But the only issue I have with Tradesy is that like not all of their stuff can be authenticated. You kind of just have to use your best judgment on that one. But stuff that I've purchased on Tradesy, I've never had an issue with it being inauthentic, if that makes sense. Because it's not like a real consignment where somebody sells it to the entity and the entity, you know, creates a price and they sell it back to you. Tradesy is like a seller's platform, so it's like me selling to you or like another person selling to me. So it's a platform for sellers amongst each other, as opposed to Yugi's Closet and the RealReal, Rebag, Farfetch, websites like that where they are actual consignment websites that do a lot of the authenticating. With Tradesy, it's more of like an online selling platform amongst your peers. But I feel like one entity that nobody really talks about is Facebook groups. Facebook groups. So I'm in so many Facebook groups. I'm in the Reedsy Facebook group for not only Chanel but for Louis Vuitton and like other ones. And it's like a buy, sell, trade Facebook group. And it's like a very tight-knit community, but like people sell and buy stuff on there all the time. And the group is kind of strict when it comes to like authenticity and stuff like that. Like when I tried selling my, when I was trying to sell my Speedy, like I forgot like to put my nameplate in my posting, and everybody was just like, oh my god, like, you know, they didn't come for me, but everybody kind of hopped on. They were just like, oh my god, like you need to put the nameplate or else like your listing is gonna get rejected. So, you know, there are definitely like sets of rules that you definitely have to follow on Facebook groups, but I think Facebook groups are like one of the best places to buy, sell, and trade. Like it's such an underrated place to look for pre-loved items. So if you haven't browsed Facebook groups when it comes to like handbags, I suggest you do so. It's so good. But yeah, this video turned out kind of long considering it was only like 3 tips. It was like 3 tips, but like expanded. So I'm gonna end this video here because I feel like I've talked a lot already. But yeah, I hope you guys found this video helpful. Tell me what tips and tricks you guys like. Again, I'm always on the hunt for handbags, so like if there's handbags that you guys love, tell me which one I should look at. Let's talk about this together. I will link all my information down below. Again, if anyone wants to practice Korean with me, I'll link my KakaoTalk down below. Message me. So I'm gonna end this video right here, like I said previously. But if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, of course, reach out to me on Instagram. I'm always big on that. Comment down below. Let's have a little chat. But yeah, I hope you guys found this video helpful. Give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye. Come here and say hi to everybody. She just got a haircut, so she's looking okay. She's looking a little bald. Every time I wear lipstick, she's always like, Mom, what are you wearing? Hi. Say hi to everybody. Beep, 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 beep. I love you. Mwah. 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 Most of you guys have known me since since Tofu was a puppy. And that's a huge deal to me. She's turning 5, guys. She's turning 5. Oh my god, that means I've been doing YouTube for 5 years. What a rude awakening.